Is it working? Hello there, everyone. Hello, Renee. Hello, Dendrain. I hope you can hear me. Again, that anxiousness that I have, especially since I got a new mic. I believe you can. I did a sound test. Hello. Today's video live stream is going to be really laid back. I've got my water. My hair is up, which never happens on a live, so I dressed it up a little bit and put some earrings on. But yeah, today's going to be really laid back, and I want to have fun with this topic because for me, it's a lighthearted topic. First, I have some YouTube only announcements. Tomorrow at this same time, I will be going live to pick the winner of my giveaway. So make sure that you've subscribed. This is your reminder now, if you're watching live, to give the video a thumbs up. And also, YouTube has changed the way they send out notifications. So I know you're probably not getting emails anymore when I go live, if that's something that you had in your settings. But if you have notifications turned on, for example, on your cell phone, hitting the little notification bell next to the subscribe button will push notifications to you when I go live or when I post a new video or whenever. It just depends on what sort of notification settings you have for your subscription to my channel. Where was I going with that? Yes. Okay, so giveaway winner will be picked tomorrow. That is September 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I look forward to picking the winner of my giveaway. I'm going to do it old school. I'm going to write all of the names down and draw it out of a hat or something. I don't think there's enough room in my little cauldron back there to pick a name out of, but I'll figure it out. I want to do it old school like that and write them all down. The next announcement is I will be having my first patron live hangout Q&A chat thing this Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that is for patrons only, but if you join me on Patreon from now until then at any tier, you will get access to that. It's going to be through Google Meets. I'm going to try it that way because Zoom is expensive on a monthly basis for someone like me who doesn't have a regular income. So that is it, I think, for YouTube announcements. I don't think I have anything else. Just the giveaway and the patron chat, and make sure you subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. Oh, I actually have natural light today, so unless the sun decides to go away for longer periods of time than what just happened, we should have good lighting. I might have to get up and turn my other light on until then, or if that happens. Let's see. So, yeah, I think we can go ahead and hop into the topic. Today, I wanted to talk about different types of witches, and this topic was voted on through Patreon. Patrons over on Patreon get a chance to vote on the topics that they want me to talk about or things that they are interested in hearing about. So today's topic is which witch is which? And I want to talk about witchcraft labels, different quote-unquote types of witches, what they mean, and if they're even really necessary at all. I have my notes here, and we can just go. So I do want to talk about a few different questions, I guess you could say, in terms of labels within witchcraft. The first thing is, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of having a witchcraft label? And I guess I can back up and say what a witchcraft label is. I myself don't give myself a label as far as green witch or kitchen witch or hedge witch or anything like that. I don't have one sort of specialty, I guess, within witchcraft. I don't have one thing that I just gravitate to all the time. I sort of have my hand in all of the different pots. So, a label within witchcraft, in terms of what I'm talking about today, is labels like green witch and hedge witch and sea witch, and there are a million different labels out there. Today I wanted to talk about 10 of the different labels. So the purpose of labeling your witchcraft, and I want to make that part very clear, you label your own witchcraft. I'm not going to give you a label of what your witchcraft is. That is not my place. It is no one else's place. You label your own witchcraft. And the purpose of giving yourself a label within witchcraft is to sort of find your people, I guess. Your community, the people who are like-minded, who practice and have the same interests and specialties as you do. So, for example, if you label yourself a kitchen witch, you would go join all of the other kitchen witches in your community, and you would have things to talk about that everyone is interested in because you share a common ground within kitchen witchcraft. That is the whole purpose, I think, of labeling witchcraft, is to find a spot where you fit comfortably within the community, and it gives you a sort of specialty, something that you are really good at or something that you're really interested in, to, I keep wanting to say niche down, find your niche, but that doesn't sound right in this situation. It's just about your own personal practice. Again, the labels are self-assigned. They are arbitrary. They don't have dictionary definitions. There are many labels that have common definitions and common themes throughout the community. And, that just comes from experience, that comes from people sharing their labels and what those labels mean to them. But when it comes down to it, your label is your own. And it's just to give yourself, like, the box that is your witchcraft. It's just to give it a name. Just to give it a descriptor. I want to mention, before we go into talking about these different labels that I have in my notes, that the labels that I'm going to talk about are based on my own experiences, based on my own definitions of these labels and how I feel in terms of their name and what they mean to me. So my label for green witch might be different than your label of green witch. That's okay. As I said, labels are arbitrary and self-assigned. At this point, they mean what you want it to mean. Unless, it's going to get complicated. They mean what you want it to mean unless it's a term that is commonly used in the community to describe one very specific type of witchcraft. In this case, kitchen witchcraft. I wouldn't necessarily label yourself a kitchen witch if you don't incorporate magic into your cooking or your baking or anything like that. I would find something else that fit that description better. Also, the labels that I have here are listed in no particular order. It's just the order that I happened to write them down in. So I'm going to flip my notes and we can get started. The first one is witch, just witch. This is the label that I use for myself because I don't ascribe or put myself in a position to have to choose one particular label. This is because I have so many different interests. I have so many different things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy baking and cooking and creating magic that way. I also enjoy gardening and growing things and spending time in nature. So, I do magic that way. I have worked with the elements, I have worked with the phases of the moon. I have done witchcraft in and out of a religious context. So, for me, I'm just witch. That is my label, witch. One who practices the craft of witchcraft. Then, kitchen witch is exactly as it sounds. A kitchen witch for me is someone who does a lot of their magic in the kitchen. They work really well with the energies of herbs and spices and natural ingredients that you can eat. They also work really well with baking and cooking and the element of fire in this sense, because fire is normally needed for cooking in one form or another, whether that be heat from an electric stove or fire from a gas stove or fire from a campfire or a wood burning stove or something like that. A kitchen witch is someone who does most of their magic in the kitchen. I like the idea of kitchen witchcraft, and it goes back for me to the thought, it's very stereotypical, of a mom making their kid chicken noodle soup when they're sick, and chicken noodle soup really just helps you feel better. But you can incorporate all different kinds of magic into your cooking. You can make a soup like that that's meant to heal. And the way that I understand kitchen witchcraft is magic is in every step of the process. So, say you're making a stew and the purpose behind the stew is to help heal the people that eat it, right? Maybe they're sick. So, you take a carrot and you rinse the carrot under cold running water. And that is symbolic of rinsing away their sickness. Then, as you chop the carrot, that is a way of imbuing the carrot with the magic to get rid of and chop up, essentially, the illness that the person is feeling. And cooking it and going through every single step, it's all imbued with magic. And that is the beauty for me behind kitchen witchcraft. The ingredients, the process, the way that it's cooked, the way that it's presented, and the way that it's eaten is all part of the spell in kitchen witchcraft. And I think I just described Bex from The Witch's Cookery like perfectly. Oh, look, she's here. Sorry, podcast listeners. She's here in the live chat. I'll go back through the live chat later in the bonus section. The next sort of label that I have for witchcraft is green witch. Green witches, in my opinion, are witches who like to spend a lot of their time in the garden or in nature. These are people who we would see as having a green thumb. They can basically make anything grow or anything come back to life. I see green witches as having a deep spiritual connection to the plants and animals around them. Usually, green witches have a very animistic perspective of the world around them. Plants and animals and animate and inanimate objects all have a living essence. I also see that green witches use these plants and animal spirits within their practice, within their magic. One of my favorite examples of green witchcraft, I don't think it was intended to be an example of green witchcraft, but it made me think of green witchcraft. I'll see if I can find it. I think it was a comic or one of those memes that somebody shared. It's like a screenshot from Twitter or Tumblr. But it was someone talking about one of their friends and how they have a plant for each of their friends. So this person has a plant and for each of their friends. They've got 4 friends, so they've got 4 plants. Stumbling over my words today. Um, but then this person takes care of these plants, whispers to these plants, talks to them, and that anytime the plant started doing poorly, maybe it got a sickness or it wilted or something like that, the person knew that that friend needed their attention, not just the plant, but the person themselves. And that reminds me so much of green witchcraft. And I don't even know if that's what other people think green witchcraft is, but that's what it is to me. Using the plants and plant life around you, growing it yourself, growing your own food when you can. That's green witchcraft for me. Let's see. The next one that I have is a sea witch. I don't have much experience with sea witchcraft. Now that I'm in Florida, I probably will have more experience eventually. But I grew up in California. I was several hours away from the beach, so I wasn't able to go to the sea a lot. But a sea witch is someone who works with the energy of the ocean, and I think also subsequently they are heavily tied to the moon, the phases of the moon, because of the moon's association and physical ties with the ocean itself. I think that sea witches really are at home when they're close to the water, and I would imagine that it would be very difficult to be a landlocked sea witch. Ooh, that would be kind of hard for me. Um, a sea witch sees the ocean as cleansing, as powerful, as playful. Um, I would imagine that a sea witch sees the ocean like uh, like the ocean in Moana. If you've never seen Moana, I definitely recommend that movie. It is a Disney movie, but it's adorable. In Moana, the ocean is playful, the ocean is powerful and helpful, the ocean is sentient, and I really get a lot of sea witch vibes when thinking about how the ocean is portrayed in Moana. The next one that I have listed here is a hedge witch. Now, hedge witch is something that I came across many, many years ago. And the term confused me at first because when I think of a hedge, I think of those tall bushes, the ones that sort of separate yards or boundaries or something like that. I think of like a hedge. But in witchcraft and the occult, a hedge witch is a witch that works in liminal spaces. So they work within the boundary between the here and the other side. Whatever that is for you. That could be the astral, it could be just a liminal space, it could be the other world, the underworld. A hedge witch is someone who travels between those spaces and works their magic through the liminal spaces. The hedge witches that I have had experience with actually work with spirits and beings in the astral, whether that be for those beings to help their witchcraft, or maybe they are in service to another being on the other side. But a hedge witch is someone that finds it really easy to cross the boundary between this world and the other world, and they do their best magic that way. I have zero experience in this type of practice, I guess, mainly because I find it very difficult to journey to the astral or journey to the other side. I don't know why. It's just something that I've always had trouble with. So I'm not much of a hedge witch in that sense. But it's something worth trying. It's something worth looking into if it's something that you're interested in. Next up, I have Wiccan Witch. Now, Wiccan Witch, I have it written here, but it goes along with any other witchcraft that is practiced in a religious context. Because witchcraft itself is simply that. It is not a religion. You know, it's not a spiritual practice in a sense. And I guess I can combine this one with the opposite, which is secular witch. So, a Wiccan witch is someone that practices witchcraft within their religion, within Wicca. You could also see the same thing when you look at Christian witches. They would be a religious witch because they're practicing witchcraft in their religion, in a religious context. I have some experience with this because I was a Wiccan. I practiced most of my witchcraft as a Wiccan, and so, that just made sense for me. I was a religious witch. But now I'm more of a secular witch. My witchcraft doesn't really play a role in my faith as an Irish pagan. And secular witches often either don't work with deities, they don't believe in deities, they don't think deities are real, or they acknowledge the existence of deities, but they kind of stay away from them. That's just going to depend on the witch themselves. You can practice witchcraft within the confines of a religion, or you can practice witchcraft outside of religion. Both are completely acceptable. The next one that is on my list is an eclectic witch. And I guess I could ascribe this label to myself because I kind of pull from different types of witchcraft, different specialties, I guess you could say, within witchcraft, and practice what works for me and what I enjoy. But an eclectic witch traditionally, or not traditionally, typically draws on different traditions, practices, and spiritualities to craft an individual and personal type of witchcraft that works for them. A lot of witches are eclectic witches, and that's totally fine. As long as they don't walk along that border of cultural appropriation and they are respectful of the traditions and the practices that they do have, then I don't see an issue with being an eclectic witch. So I have two left. I'm stumbling over my words today. It's very fun. It's probably because I've been talking basically all day because I recorded and edited 2 videos before this live stream. But the next one that I have on my list is Elemental Witch. An Elemental Witch is a witch that works very closely with the elements. This could be, maybe they work with all of them within their practice, maybe they focus just on one, and the elemental systems that they use are going to be specific to them. So I work with the elements earth, air, fire, and water, but I also work within the elements as seen in Irish paganism of land, sea, and sky. So that's going to really depend on the witch. But an elemental witch is one who uses the elements that they have at their disposal basically for all of their magic, all of their spell work. They can use fire to burn their spells, to scry. They can use water to cleanse. I feel like most witches are elemental. Most witches use the elements in their practice in one way or another. The last one that I have listed here is hereditary witch. Now this one gets tricky, and the term hereditary witch, depending on who you ask, has some very different connotations. Some people are like, oh yeah, cool, hereditary witch, whatever. Other people are like, hereditary witch, yeah, right. And this comes from, I think, the idea that when witchcraft in like the 50s and the 60s, when it was becoming really popular and people were trying to join covens and things like that, you had to have a, a line. You had to have a hereditary tie to the coven or to someone in the coven in order to join the coven. So I think the term hereditary witch has a bad reputation at this point, but for me, a hereditary witch is just someone who was raised as a witch, raised in these practices, raised with knowledge of the occult and knowledge of magic and spells and animism and all of the fantastic stuff that we know to be true as witches. I don't particularly look down on anyone that calls themselves a hereditary witch. I might check the context of them calling themselves a hereditary witch just because of the connotation and the experiences that the witchcraft community has had with that term over the last 50 plus years. But a hereditary witch is just someone that was born into it and taught witchcraft from a young age, typically from family or close friends. So those are the 10 types of witches that I wanted to talk about today. They were witch, kitchen witch, green witch, sea witch, hedge witch, religious witch, wish witch, religious witch. Oh my goodness. Secular witch, eclectic, elemental, and hereditary. So I don't know. I know on YouTube there was a bunch of drama a couple of weeks ago about labels and, why you can or can't use a specific label. Or I think someone was talking about someone who practices new age practices and uses crystals and healing, and I think they said light worker. They were saying that those people can't call themselves witches. I disagree. I'm not going to get into all of that because honestly, I don't care. I don't care what you label yourself as. You do you. As long as your label makes sense, then I don't see it as an issue. In my own private time, I can call myself whatever I want, right? But when I present that label to the public, it kind of has to make sense for other people to understand. But I want to reiterate that labels are assigned by you for you to help you define your practice for yourself. If you're going to share that label outside of your own personal practice, that's fine. If your label doesn't make sense to other people, then I would say, be prepared to answer questions, because if you come to me and say, hey, I am an XYZ witch and it doesn't make sense to me, I'll ask you, like, oh, what does that mean? If you're going to present your label to the public, fine, just be prepared to answer questions if it doesn't make sense. But on the other side of that, you don't have to label yourself. You do not need to label your witchcraft. If you just want to call yourself a witch because you practice witchcraft, awesome. If you don't want to call yourself a witch, that's fine too. I know some people have a really negative connotation to that word, and historically it's been used negatively, but some of us are okay with taking that word back and calling ourselves witches. Some people aren't. That's fine. But you don't have to label your witchcraft to be a witch. You don't have to label your witchcraft to be in the community or anything of the sort. Labels are for you. Labels are to help you define your practice, and your labels might change over time. Chances are they will, not might. Chances are your labels will change over time. I used to be Wiccan. I used to practice witchcraft in a Wiccan context. I was a religious witch. Now, I'm not. Now I am a witch, or an eclectic witch if I want to take it that far. But it'll change over time. The one thing that I want you to take away from this episode, this video, this podcast, is that labels are arbitrary. They're for you, but they're not necessary. So that's that for today. very short, very, laid back because we've had enough tension. We've had enough tension over the course of 2020 and even in the last couple of weeks, especially with such a heavy topic last week. I wanted to keep it light, keep it short, and just have fun with it, I guess. And it's helpful that patrons voted for this topic. So, yeah. If you want to stick around for the bonus section where we just hang out and chat here on YouTube, I can answer any questions, then stick around. Podcast listeners, you're free to listen to the bonus section. If you're not and you're just going to turn it off here, then I will talk to you soon. All right. I am going to pop through the live chat. Ugh. It's been weird. I am glad that I was able to make it through this today. My voice isn't being, there's a word. My voice is cooperating today, I guess you could say. I was having some issues with my voice getting all scratchy and not wanting to work right, I suppose. But I'm in conversations with my doctor about that and some other things that kind of go along with that. So eventually I might talk about that. But for now, I'm just glad that my voice decided to work and I was able to record 2 videos before doing this podcast live stream. So I'm going to pop back through the chat and see what y'all are saying. Closing my notes. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Hello, Renee. Hello, Dendrain. Hello, Bex. Hello, Marissa. Hi, everyone. All right. Let's see. Bex. So true. I am in a lot of Facebook groups for green witches, and I constantly read, I cannot keep a plant alive. I can't be a green witch. While in my book, green witchcraft doesn't have to do with keeping plants alive too much, but more with working with plants or plant spirits or herbalism. Yes. Yes. I love how we think that a label means one thing, but, just to ourselves. But then when we go in and we ask other people or we talk about it with other people, we find out that one word, one label will mean so many different things to so many different people. And I love that. And you're welcome, Bex, because that description of kitchen witchery, I think, fits you perfectly, and I love watching your videos. Let's see. Renee said they work with, crystals. And Renee says, I am a witch no matter what anyone says. I am also a coffee witch. I think I need to add that to my list. A side note on the coffee thing, I made my cup of coffee this morning with the intention and a little bit of magic to have the motivation, the courage, the energy, and the stamina, and all of that stuff to get everything done that I needed to get done today. And holy crap if I haven't done just about everything that I need to get done, and it's only 2:30. I have just been going. I took the dog for a walk. I recorded and edited 2 videos. One will come out on Tuesday. The other one is actually for another channel that I'm working on that I will tell you all about maybe next week or sometime. I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, it'll come out there eventually. But oh my goodness, if that didn't work. Coffee, I only had 2 cups today, which is not normal. I normally have more than that. But anyway, coffee witch, that needs to be a thing. Right, Marissa also says, totally agree, you do you, label or no label, whatever works best for that person and why they want it is up to them. Art witch, crystal witch, yep. Those are all great. Marissa, I think we've talked about the Art Witch thing before. Um, Renee says, Ricola for my voice. Okay, so I don't know. I might talk about this on Patreon a little more just because it's not out there for everyone to see or hear, and it's a little more private, I guess. I think maybe I'll discuss that a little bit later on Patreon. Um, Bex says they love art witchcraft. Don't want to advertise for other channels here, but I just have to say that the Witchling does awesome YouTube content for art witchery, even though her channel is super new. Awesome. Yeah, feel free. Okay, so I don't want anybody to ever feel like they can't mention their channel or mention another channel in my chat. As long as you don't spam the chat and you are actually contributing to the conversation, I am totally okay with that. Like, that's a completely relevant comment, and I will definitely check out the Witchling on YouTube. And if anyone else is interested in art witchcraft, Bex at The Witch's Cookery on YouTube recommends the Witchling on YouTube. Maybe I'll find a link. Maybe I'll find a link. I will find the link and I'll put it in the description and in the show notes. Let's see. That was a ton of work for not feeling great. So it's not necessarily that I don't feel great. It's just that it just didn't want to work for a while, like 2 weeks. I think even in my last video that I did, the Wild Unknown Tarot walkthrough, you can kind of tell in my voiceover that I was struggling to speak a little bit. And it's, it's whatever at this point because it's working just fine. Right now, anyway. Uh, but yeah. I like chatting with you all here on the chat. I know sometimes it can seem one-sided, and on YouTube it might seem really weird because I'm repeating your comments, but I do that specifically for the podcast listeners who do want to stay and who do want to listen to the bonus section and feel like they're taking part in the chat. For podcast listeners that do listen to the bonus section, I hope that's what it feels like for you. If not, I don't know how to change that unless you join me on YouTube in the chat. But yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know where I was going with that. I think I eventually want to use the bonus section too to get kind of personal and have like one-on-one, well, not one-on-one conversations, but to share more of the life behind the witchcraft. So I guess I can start this one by saying we're not sure how much we like Florida. I mean, I don't really have much of an issue with it, but my boyfriend's not liking all of the rain, especially at this point since he's having to work in it. He works outside all day long. I am trying to get him to wear sunscreen because he just is tanning so much and getting sunburned. And he came home from work the other day soaking wet because it rained all day long and he hates it. And so we've actually kind of been entertaining the idea of getting an RV and becoming full-time RVers. But we're in this lease here in Florida for at least a year, so until June of 2021. We have all the time to figure it out, but it's something that we've been entertaining the idea of. And I know Rose and I have discussed it. So that's the Wiccan Homestead. And oh my gosh, I totally forgot to do my patron shout out this week. Oh, I feel super terrible. I'll do it here. So shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. I can't believe I forgot. Jess, Rose, Renee, Holly, Blue, Hillary, Lee, Leeli, Angie, and Bonnie. I think that's everyone. Um, I still can't believe I forgot to do that. Anyways, um, yeah, that's just an idea that we've been entertaining. The logistics of it will be interesting to figure out if that's the route that we decide to go. Also, the income situation will be interesting to figure out, but you know, it'll be interesting. I keep saying interesting, but whatever. Hello, is Izrai? I don't know if I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I apologize. But you said you go back and forth between the podcast and YouTube and you appreciate me repeating the comments. That's really good to hear. Sometimes I feel really weird repeating the comments because I know for people on YouTube, like, it's just extra information, it's just a repeat. But I want this to be accessible for everyone. So that's why I do it. Please do. I would love to follow your adventures with RVing. Um, I'll have to let you know. I will definitely keep you all updated about any RV adventures if that ever happens. RVs are not cheap and gas is not cheap, and we would still have bills to pay, and I would have to figure out how to make sure that we would have adequate income every month for that. Um, I know it's possible. I know it can be done. I just have to figure it out for myself. I can also let you know that you all should follow me on Instagram if you're interested in getting snippets and sneak peeks of the book that I'm writing. I know I've shared a couple of little previews of the book that I'm writing on Discord, but I am writing a book on shadow work from a spiritual and religious perspective and why it can be helpful, how to do it, and it's going to include journal prompts and guided meditations. So I'm hoping to have this book out in time for the new year. I'm hoping for January. I will probably publish it myself, either through my own website or also through Amazon, where people can get a paperback if they want one. It'll probably be available on many platforms. I haven't figured that part out yet because I haven't finished writing the dang thing. But that is something that I'm doing. I am sharing clips and little paragraphs over on Instagram. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely follow me on Instagram. Um, and if you've got questions about shadow work, I'd love to hear them because I want to make sure that I'm addressing questions from the community in the book and making it useful for everyone, not just what I think people will need to hear or will want to hear. So that sounds great. That is the first time that I have said that I'm writing a book and I'm hoping to have it done by the new year out loud. So now I'm sort of committing myself to that deadline. So now I have no choice but to get it done, right? Uh, so I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope it was helpful for you or gave you some ideas about your own witchcraft and labels. I know half of this episode is just me rambling and chatting with you all through the chat, but that's okay. So I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.